A dream to some.
A nightmare to others!
But I will give you a message. A message of death!
Oh yeah! Come on, get ready!
Make no attempt to capture them. They must be exterminated.
Matron, take them away!
Stardust speaks to you.
I'd rather not spend the rest of this winter tied to this fucking couch!
Today we are in sunny Leeds.
We are.
We are here at the Archive, pub, cafe, bar, venue.
Thing.
We are here.
It's a P. Get away. It's a P.
Good start.
Yeah,
We
very
are
good
here
start.
for the second Leeds Horror Film Festival
The second horror film festival. When was the first, David?
back in 2015.
There
And
we go.
due to various things, including an actual global pandemic,
That was
we've
one.
we've not had one for a while.
No.
But here we are. It's a different venue than before. We have a new venue than what we had before. A lot of the regulars have turned up, as well as some newcomers to the festival. Luke
That would be me.
included.
That would be me. This is my first time that I've been here.
So we are going to do a series of videos, as well as a full sort of combined sort of video
Yeah.
of the day's festivities. Let me introduce myself first of all. My name is the Big Daddy D, David Mabley, and it's no good trying to rub me off.
And I am Luke Murphy, and I know I'm human.
You sure?
I'll do a blood test later.
Good. So we're going to pop inside the festival for the very first film of the day, which is the rural horror classic.
The blood on Satan's
Blood
claw.
on Satan's Claw. Fantastic. So I can't wait to see that. And we've
Yeah.
also got other films as well to look forward to.
We've got John Carpenter's The Thing to look forward to. We've got From Beyond the Grave to look forward to. We have a short horror film showcase to look forward to. We're not entirely sure how many films are going to be involved in this, but that's going to be brilliant. We've also got a mystery film,
A mystery film, that's right.
which we're not entirely sure of either.
And there's also Virgin Witch, which is basically a softcore porn film.
Yes.
With some horror in, which I don't think we'll be sticking around
No,
for.
well, we're definitely going to stick around for, because your 20-year-old son is with us at the moment, and it will be, quite frankly, cringe.
Very, very awkward.
Yeah,
yes,
so
yes.
we're not going to do that.
In his words, I'm not sat here in a dark room with a load of strangers watching a softcore porn with me dad.
No, it's perfectly acceptable.
But we will review.
we will mention that.
We will watch that separately.
I think that's even worse saying that.
For reviewing purposes, and we'll meet up in the bunker for that. So there's going to be footage of us around the festival. There'll be footage of us reflecting on it in the bunker.
With lots of other stuff about the festival and what have you. We'll try
That's
and
right.
capture as much as we can for you. As much as we can, as best we can. So yeah,
Let's not waste any more time. Let's
enjoy,
get inside.
everybody.
Enjoy.
See you soon.
Tygon British Film Productions was a relatively short-lived film production and distribution company, but it certainly left its mark upon the horror genre, producing such films as amazing as Witchfinder General in 1968, starring the legendary Vincent Price, and As Bad as Virgin Witch in 1972, which was also being shown at the Leeds Horror Film Festival later that same evening.
Oh dear. Anywho, one film that was made in between these two opposing efforts of quality was The Blood on Satan's Claw in 1971, a British supernatural folk horror movie. And this film does draw quite heavily on the themes of witchcraft and rural superstition that were also in Witchfinder General. It even goes so far as to repeat certain segments from that film, such as the sequence in which a woman is chucked into a body of water by the locals who suspect that she's a witch.
What you done? There's a witch!
Oh, so we swung her, eh?
See if she floats. How'd you know she be a witch?
We know if she don't sink, she be one.
If she sink, you done her murder.
Oops. So she might not have been a witch after all. Never mind. At least we now know.
You live and learn.
You do.
The Blood on Satan's Claw also copies Witchfinder General's idea of there being an actual book of witches, although the pictures in this book look like they were drawn by a 5-year-old. The film also feels like a precursor to the likes of The Wicker Man, another British pagan horror classic, as well as Children of the Corn.
And seeing as how The Wicker Man is being re-released for its 50th anniversary in a nice 4K restoration, I reckon that might end up being covered as a future episode of this ear show.
I certainly wouldn't object to that.
It would be a very nice thing, you know, some sort of folk horror trilogy with this, The Blood on Satan's Claw, Witchfinder General, and The Wicker Man.
Provided we don't get cancelled before then, of course.
Provided we don't get cancelled before then.
Doctor, witchcraft is dead and discredited. Are you bent on reviving forgotten horrors?
Set in early 18th century England, the film follows the residents of a small rural village whose youth begin to fall under the influence of a demonic presence after a local farmer unearths a mysterious deformed skull buried in a field. Soon after this discovery, very strange things begin to happen, including mysterious illnesses, people growing fur on unusual parts of their body, people getting clawed appendages for some reason, and of course some lethal games of blind man's buff, as the young folk of the village slowly begin to convert into a coven of devil worshippers.
There is growing amongst you all an insolent ungodliness, which I will not tolerate.
The film was directed by Piers Haggard and starred Linda Hayden and Barry Andrews, who had both appeared in Hammer Studios' Taste the Blood of Dracula the year before. Hayden's nude scene in this film, where she attempts to seduce the local reverend, certainly raised a few eyebrows at the time, and possibly some other body parts as well. Yes, that's right folks, this film contains gratuitous female nudity. Of course, it then all starts to get a little bit creepy when you find out that Hayden was only 17 years old at the time, because we didn't have IMDb back in the 70s to check an actress's date of birth. Yeah, that hasn't aged at all well, has it?
No, it really hasn't. The Reverend Fallowfield is played by Anthony Ainley, who would later become better known as the fourth actor to portray the Master in Doctor Who. And just to add to even more to the Doctor Who connection, as we usually love to do on this here programme, we also have Wendy Padbury, who previously played Zoe, the companion of the second Doctor. She's also in this film as well.
And in the film's most notorious and controversial scene, Padbury's character, Kathy Vespers, meets a horribly grisly end by a ritualistic murder. Earlier on in the film, Kathy's brother Mark is lured away to his death by a couple of girls asking him to come and play with him, one of whom is played by Roberta Tovey in an uncredited role. Tovey, of course, played the part of Susan in the Peter Cushing Doctor Who movies from Amicus Studios, which we have covered on the channel in some depth before.
Wilt thou come and play with us, Mark? Please?
We play girls' games.
Angel has taught us some new games. Please come. Angel wants thee.
And speaking of Cushing, he was originally offered the role of the village's judge for this film, but he had to decline due to his wife's illness at the time. Christopher Lee was also considered as well, but his asking fee was far too much for the film.
So, Patrick, Wymark was cast instead. Good to know that it's like, well, you're not his first choice, you're not even his second choice, but, you know, you are currently available and you're not going to charge a shitload of money, so...
Exactly.
Yeah. And to be fair, he does put on a brilliantly hammy performance throughout, to the point where, when he disappears from the film after the first half an hour and doesn't show up again until the end, you really do miss him. Well, I certainly did anyway.
He's actually, Patrick Wymark is a really good actor. He's excellent, you know,
yes.
He's one of those British character actors that will just pop up in the film and immediately you'll say, oh, it's him. So when we were watching this, I was thinking, oh, hang on a minute, he's the Colonel from Where Eagles Dare.
But understand, I shall use undreamed of measures.
And, as the judge in this film, he both manages to be a complete badass and a complete arsehole at the same time. To the point where you're not actually always sure if he's meant to be one of the good guys or not. He's morally ambiguous, decides in his own way who is innocent, and he won't hesitate to tie people up and threaten them with a sword, or set wild dogs on them.
Leave me to judge who is innocent.
And by the end of the film, he's got himself a second, even bigger sword to swing around in slow motion. Considering the size of the blade and that it appears to have a crucifix as part of the sword's handle, it's something that wouldn't look out of place in a Final Fantasy game.
Also, the film was probably coming just under the 90-minute runtime, so this scene took the Garth Marenghi approach and was considered for slow motion.
Sadly, this performance is also tinged with sadness, as this would be Wymark's last film. He would pass away just 3 months before the film's release.
I mean, there's a real sense of creeping unease and unsettling tension throughout the film. It's helped along by a fantastically edgy soundtrack by Mark Wilkinson, an Australian composer who had previously worked alongside Haggard in the National Theatre. The film was shot in a small village, amusingly titled Vic's Bottom. Yes, that's not. I have not made that up. I have not made that up.
Welcome to Britain.
Welcome to Britain. The village of Vic's Bottom, which is in Oxfordshire. It was filmed in that village and sort of the surrounding areas as well. There's some truly eerie shots of a dark and mysterious countryside, which makes for an unsettling atmosphere throughout the film.
Right, we're just taking a bit of a break, because that film's not for everyone. There's a few scenes where you see various men sort of descending on young ladies. There's a particular scene in a disused church which is somewhat disturbing to watch. There's moments where we're seeing people who are depicted as teenagers basically getting down to some sexual deviancy and also a bit of the old mutilation and what have you. Admittedly, the director of the film, Piers Haggard, he did admit during an interview as part of Mark Gattis's fantastic History of Horror series that he did on BBC. He sort of says, yeah, looking back, you know, it was the 70s, it was like very much that's what people did in these films, you know, you had to have this sort of kind of thing. But he did say, sort of looking back in hindsight, yeah, the film does go a bit too far, it does go a bit excessive. In like 2023 eyes, you sort of watch it and go, yeah, it goes to places where it shouldn't do. Although having said that, there are a number of times where that film just gets unintentionally hilarious. We were like laughing out a few times, you know. Best way of you know, resolving a medical condition or someone being hysterical, just slap them across the face, you know. And the judge's way of dealing with the problem is like, yeah, let it get worse before we do what about it. So basically taking the COVID approach, really.
So the film was originally intended to be part of an anthology, with the skeleton being used to tie 3 separate stories together, seeing as how Amicus Studios had already proven to be very, very successful with that format. The 3 stories were going to include a woman being locked in an attic by her abusive aunt, a man that cuts off his own hand because he's convinced that he's been possessed by the devil, as you do, and a bunch of children that come across an odd-looking skeleton in a farmer's field. Now, sadly, changing this from an anthology of 3 stories to a single story, it does the finished film more harm than good, because it tries to shoehorn the 3 into the 1. So,
and although elements of the 3 stories you've mentioned are here in this film, they're not really weaved together all that well. Some characters just completely disappear from the film entirely, without a trace. And the mother of Mark and Kathy Vespers seems to get over the sudden and, quite frankly, violent deaths of both her children rather a little too quickly.
Yeah.
As a result, the film does feel like it's been chopped down considerably from what it was originally supposed to be. And it seems to be uncertain at times over which direction it's going in, and copying ideas from Witchfinder General does not do the film any favours either.
And also, let's be honest here, if the arrival of the devil himself is going to be in the form of patches of hair appearing on the body, then applying a little bit of Vite for men is going to solve that particular problem. Although, you might want to get it applied pretty sharpish. You see those people outside with the torches and the pitchforks? Yeah, they're here for you.
So,
are the levels on?
Naturally, we'll be filming some bits and pieces.
I am here.
The bunker as well.
Yeah.
But we'll also be filming some sections where we're actually at the festival itself. We've just finished watching the Blood on Satan's Claw. So,
Why have we watched it?
Despite its flaws, and they are numerous ones, and despite some questionable scenes, it is a fantastic slice of
fantastic piece of
horror, and it does deserve to be better known than what it actually is. I feel have that in a trilogy along with Witchfinder General and The Wicker Man, and you will have a bloody good time. Although your eyebrows might get thicker than usual.
I mean, to be fair, you know, that poor lass, she needed a good.
She needed a
good eyebrow trim.
You were saying to me during the film, it's like get a bit of Veet for men, slapped on there, and she's sorted.
What on earth just happened? Yeah, like it's like what the hell? Yeah.
There was parts of it that gave serious creepy vibes.
Creepy vibes. Cheese.
Parts of it was just so cheesy that it was unreal.
And you could tell it was 70s.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sideburns. Yes.
I mean, somebody needs to introduce some razors to some people.
Oh yes, yeah.
Like, if that's the mark of the devil, then a lot of us are screwed.
Yeah, Gillette, the best a man or the devil can get.
For the second film at the festival, we had John Carpenter's 1982 horror classic, The Thing. This film features a group of American scientists in an Antarctic research base who find themselves becoming hunted down by a shape-shifting alien life form that can assume and mutate the appearance of its victims.
This becomes the central premise of the movie as, one by one, the group start to succumb to the alien infection. As the tension and the body count rises, the increasingly paranoid survivors begin to turn on each other, rather than working together, as they desperately try to figure out who, if anyone, they can still trust.
But first of all, as an added extra to keep the attendees of the Leeds Horror Film Festival a little more entertained, we were joined by a gentleman called Peter Abbott, who was displaying pieces from his huge collection of memorabilia from The Thing. And he very kindly agreed to have an interview about not only his collection for the channel, but also his journey to locate where the film was originally made. So we have fans and we have super fans, and then when we go above super fans we have Peter Abbott, who is here today at the Leeds Horror Film Festival with the biggest collection of Thing memorabilia I've ever seen. Peter, thank you first of all for agreeing to the interview.
You're welcome.
Very much appreciated. So this is an amazing collection. When did it start? What was the start of The Thing for you when you first saw it?
Well, I watched it when I was 10. Didn't watch it for a couple more years after that because it was a bit too much at the time. But I think the collection had started when I bought my first VHS of it.
And when was that then, when you bought the first sort of piece for your collection?
I'd say that was about 85, 86.
So a few years after the film had originally come out then?
Maybe it'd be a little bit later, to be honest, actually, because you couldn't really buy them, you just hired them. But yeah, that'd have been the first one, the VHS tape.
So why The Thing then? Of all the different sort of sci-fi horror movies out there, what was it about The Thing that sort of drew you to start collecting for it?
It was my dad. He came on when it was the summer of '83. That's when it came out on VHS in the UK. And he came home with it. I wasn't really a big horror fan. I wasn't into sci-fi, you know. And he just said, you know, we're going to watch this film and you're in for a bit of a treat. So I didn't know what to expect when we started it. We got into the film and obviously the kennel scene happened. I was absolutely horrified by it and I was closing my eyes and I managed to get through it. My dad could see I was visibly like shaken by it and he, in the calmest words ever, he said, that was a mild bit. So that was me intrigued for the rest of the film. But yeah, that's where it started. My dad showed it me as a kid.
Fantastic. And I'm sort of looking through your collection here. I see you've got multiple different copies of the soundtrack on different languages, different DVDs, different Blu-rays. Out of everything that's in your collection here, what do you think is like your most prized possession?
There's a number. Obviously the rotor is an actual piece of the Norwegian helicopter that was blown up at the beginning of the film. I visited the filming site in 2016 up in Stewart in BC, Alaska.
Amazing.
There's not much of it left, you know, there's just the rotor assembly, as you can see there, a small attachment to it, and there's small pieces of the set, brackets, nails, bits of wood, so obviously they're quite prized. Crew jacket, that would have some of the original crew from '81. They're my most prized, yeah.
And I noticed you've got quite a few pieces signed as well by John Carpenter himself. I'm assuming you've met John Carpenter then?
A number of times, yeah.
Wow, okay.
Well, I've done a meet and greet on his Anthology tour 5 times, and I've been out to the States a couple of times because they do really good conventions out there with a casting crew. The thing attends, so just lumping the gear over to America and getting it signed and bringing it back, yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. Is there any sort of pieces of memorabilia that you haven't got that you'd be interested in acquiring? Is there anything that's still like a holy grail for you?
Well,
the holy grail is MacReady's hat. But I keep in touch with the lady, Jackie Irwin. She owns the hat. Her father was the helicopter pilot for all the aerial scenes in the film. His name is Nate Irwin, and it's common knowledge that Kurt Russell didn't like to wear the hat on the filming set. So as soon as filming finished, he gave it to Nate Irwin, the helicopter pilot, who's sadly since passed. That's been handed down to Jackie. So
Wow.
yeah, Jackie and I keep in touch. And initially, I got in touch to ask, would you sell the hat? She said no. That's it. I've never asked again. But we keep in touch. She's a really nice lady.
I don't know if you're a gamer or anything like that, but have you ever played the Thing video game?
I did, yeah. I've got it up there.
Is that there as well?
Yeah, it's amongst the Blu-rays and stuff there. I did play it, but I remember there being a certain area of it I couldn't get past. And I've never been much of a gamer, yeah. There was an area where they were going down like a square stairwell, footwell kind of thing, and all the little Norris heads were coming out. I just couldn't get past it, so I gave in.
What's your opinions of the 2011 Thing movie? Because it's meant to be part remake, part prequel. How does that sort of stand in your opinion?
It was a good effort.
Yeah.
That's as far as I'd go. I mean, obviously ADI did all the practical effects for it because they tried to keep it as practical in honour of Rob Bottin's work on this version, on the 1982 version. But the studios just wouldn't have it, so it CGI'd over it, which really spoiled it. And it has its faults. It's definitely got its faults, but it's, the Thing isn't a huge franchise, so the Halloweens, the Friday 13th, the Child Plays, and just tons of them out there. The Thing's only got Thing from Another World and 2011, so you kind of got to look at it as your little brother kind of thing. But I'm not a massive fan of it, but I don't dislike it at the same time.
So I understand as well that you're actually on some of the DVD and Blu-ray extras where you're talking about the collection. How did that sort of come about?
A friend of mine in America, Todd Cameron, he was contacted by Arrow Media to do some work for their special features, and he mentioned Arrow, there's a guy in the UK. So they got in touch and said, would you like to put something together? So I've got 2. So the Arrow, we talk about the trip to the filming location in 2016, so that documents that. And then Turbine Media, who released the brilliant box set with all the goodies inside it. That's an Easter egg, not on the special features. That's just going over the collection, but it's at my home, knocked on the door and showing them around and stuff. So. Yeah, so that's quite an honour to be on 2 of the Blu-rays as well.
So it's almost like you're sort of part of it now, aren't you?
Yeah, that's...
Well, that's brilliant. Right, well, thank you very much for your time and for agreeing to the interview for the channel. Really appreciate it, and obviously we're looking forward to watching The Thing on the big screen later on today. So, yeah, thanks for the interview, Pete. Really much appreciated.
Thanks to the fans.
We'll catch you again soon.
See you later. Bye.
The film starts off innocently enough, although it's clear that the 12 men that are working and living in the research base have already been there for a very, very long time, and that cabin fever is starting to set in, as demonstrated here when Kurt Russell's character MacReady shows us what rage quitting looked like in 1982.
The general peace and quiet is soon interrupted though, with the appearance of a dog being chased through the snow by a mad bloke in a helicopter, who is trying to blow up the poor hound.
He's obviously a cat person.
So, who are the American scientists going to trust in this situation? A cute doggy woggy, or some rad manting foreign gentleman with a gun that's already inadvertently shot one of their own party?
Well, there's your answer, folks. And also, funnily enough, this is also what happens to you when you watch too much internet porn. So, be warned.
This has been a public service announcement.
You're welcome.
This all ties into a brilliantly tense setup, combining science fiction, body horror, claustrophobic paranoia, and murder mystery in an isolated environment. It probably also explains that, despite considering myself a dog lover, I do have a mistrust of huskies. Shifty-looking buggers.
It's no wonder why The Thing has been praised as one of the best science fiction and horror films ever made, which has gained a cult following, although funnily enough it was considered as a critical and commercial failure when it was originally released.
It probably didn't help that Universal Pictures foolishly also released E.T. the Extraterrestrial to theatres at the same time, which was so successful at the box office that it completely overshadowed The Thing, to the point where the film didn't even receive any Oscar nominations. Which is crazy when you think about it, considering how amazing the performances of the cast and the special effects are. But thankfully, it would later get the attention it rightfully deserved when it finally came to home video VHS and Laserdisc.
I should just point out very, very quickly for the younger viewers amongst us, VHS and Laserdisc, they're what happened before we had DVDs and Blu-rays.
That's for the benefit of Josh if he's watching.
Yes, yeah. There's a recognisable cast here, most notably Kurt Russell, that we have already mentioned, along with the likes of Keith David. There's a few familiar faces from earlier episodes of We Need to Talk About, including Wilford Brimley, who would later go on to appear in Remo Williams, Unarmed and Dangerous. We've got Thomas G. Waits, who appeared in The Warriors as the ill-fated Fox. Carpenter and Russell had previously worked together on Elvis and Escape from New York, and it certainly wouldn't be the last time they'd worked together either. It was Russell's work with Carpenter that really helped establish the former Disney child actor into the grizzled elder leading man that he would become in the 1980s and 90s. And whilst the two of them haven't worked together in over, 25 years? Something like that. They remain good friends now. And Carpenter has even publicly expressed a desire to work with Russell again.
More on that later. John Carpenter's version of the story leaned closer to the original 1938 novel Who Goes There by John Campbell Jr. than what the original 1950s movie adaptation of the book The Thing from Another World did. Although this was partly due to budget constraints, which meant that the shape-shifting element of the creature wasn't present in the original film.
Some sort of electricity-based creature.
Yes, and another difference was that the 1950s original had a team of people working together to defeat the alien monster.
Captain, I just thought of something. You said you were going to use kerosene again. You know anything better? Something hotter. We have enough cable to stretch to the greenhouse. Why not use electricity?
Whilst Carpenter's film does have a team of people, but they're tearing each other apart, literally and figuratively, as paranoia and fear set in.
I'd rather not spend the rest of this winter tied to this fucking couch!
I mean, one of the most notable scenes from the entire movie is when MacReady explains his theory that every piece of the alien creature is an individual organism with its own survival instincts, which will react defensively when threatened. One by one, he tests everybody's blood with a heated piece of copper wire, forcing the monster to reveal themselves.
Not only is The Thing a remake, but in turn it has also been remade itself. Kind of. Although the 2011 version of The Thing is in theory a prequel, carefully making references to the 80s original, it is essentially just retreading the same plot, but with far less of the tension. The remake/prequel is very similar, yet it fails on virtually every level. It is somewhat of a shame, as it did at least introduce new ideas and designs to the creature, but it was a bit odd that, despite being a prequel, it had the exact same title as Carpenter's original, which I can't imagine did it many favours.
By far a more effective follow-up to the movie is the 2002 video game, which was released for the original Xbox, PS2 and PC, with the events in-game taking place several days after the events of the film. It's a third-person survival horror game that really does capture the claustrophobic tension of the original film, and it received plenty of favourable reviews at the time.
Unlike a lot of video game movie tie-ins at the time, the Thing video game is actually a really, really good one. And it manages to be genuinely scary at times. Carpenter himself endorsed the game and supported it during its release. So if you have got a dusty original Xbox or an old PS2 knocking about, give them a wipe down and look out for this game if you can find it. Oh, and the Warriors video game too, whilst you're at it.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, back to the film. As the body count continues to rise, MacReady documents what is happening on a tape recorder, and at one point he manages to accurately describe the people that stayed until the end of the festival to watch The Virgin Witch.
Nobody trusts anybody now. We're all very tired.
Oh, I feel like that.
Anyway, the imagination and the work that went into the creature effects is simultaneously nothing short of incredible and also deeply disturbing. The film was made a long time before CGI was a practical choice. So here we're getting actual puppets, prosthetics, blood, guts, slime that was made in a studio rather than on a computer. And it is so much more satisfying to look at than other movies in the genre that use CGI for their special effects. It still holds up extremely well today, and you know, sorry, but CGI, you can't compete with this.
Although the part where Norris's head becomes detached from the rest of his body, sprouts spider legs and scuttles off is meant to be horrifying, it actually did get a few laughs from the audience at the festival, especially after this line was said.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
Using practical effects also meant that Carpenter and his team had to get very creative with some of the death scenes, such as this moment where a character uses a defibrillator and it all goes, well, a bit messy. But rather than just having fake arms to wave around, a double was used who was actually a real-life amputee, and as a result the effect is so convincing that I genuinely didn't realise how they managed to achieve this until years later.
The Thing isn't really about the Thing. It's more about people that find themselves trapped in one location with an intermittent danger approaching and how they deal with this, for better or worse.
Why don't we just wait here for a little while? See what happens.
Funnily enough, John Carpenter recently made an appearance at the 2023 Texas Frightmare Weekend, where he teased the potential of a direct sequel to The Thing. Just imagine it. The film opens up with Kurt Russell and Keith David still sitting across from each other with comically long white beards, and Russell says, well, it's been 40 years now, I guess you aren't The Thing.
Why did you drink the gasoline then?
Well, just didn't want to be rude.
What's he doing there?
I've no idea. Let's just ignore him and maybe he'll go.
Right. So we've just finished watching The Thing. I think we were a bit loud at one point because we kind of got told off at one point.
I've just had a word with Dom just to say very, very sorry.
Very, very sorry. We got a little bit too excited.
But to be honest,
we did sort of shout along to the line, tied to this fucking cow.
So, there was that.
I mean, it was you that did that.
Well, yeah.
It was you that let's be honest. You're the one that got told off.
Well, yeah.
He looked at me.
He looked at you.
He looked at me.
Yeah. But he said, with respect, it means this whole table.
It was trying to be nice, but it was.
warn you guys, but he was already on his way out.
No. But to be honest with you, he came over and I said sorry, and he said, no, it's fine.
No, it was nice.
Just calm down a bit, yeah.
Calm down a wee bit.
I think, to be honest, that might be the film where we get the most excited because
it's so bloody good.
It is so bloody good. It is so bloody good.
Let's be honest. We just watched John Carpenter's thing. John Carpenter is a genius. Right, this is kind of like giving the game away a little bit, just how much we really, really like this film. But it's perfect.
It's perfect. It's perfect. And despite their bleak situation, all the sort of guys, all the characters involved sort of realise it's like, right, if we don't survive this thing, we need to make sure that the thing doesn't survive either. We need to make sure there's at least someone still around to make sure that it doesn't have a chance to freeze itself, that it doesn't have a chance to spread to the widespread population. And the ending is suitably bleak as well, because we get neither confirmation that the thing is actually dead, nor do we get any sort of kind of heroic, triumph.
you're kind of left with an ambiguous ending that leads you to think what you've been thinking throughout the whole film. Who exactly can you trust?
Who it is. But yeah, absolutely perfect. One of the things, both with this film, with The Thing, and also with The Blood on Satan's Claw, the use of music. The use of music on that. Now,
Enrico Morricone, the guy who did all those westerns. Plus, you've got additional material from Carpenter himself, Carpenter did some absolutely amazing sort of soundtracks.
Well, that's what I had to very, very quickly check, because I wasn't entirely sure. I knew that he worked with Morricone, but I wasn't too sure whether or not it was on this film or another film. Because it's Morricone doing Ennio Morricone style music, but at the same time doing it as John Carpenter. And John Carpenter's music is wonderful anyway, so check out some of his albums, which are superb. But that is
superb.
Just the whole, the kind of like the beat, the
dum. It's so simple, but it's so effective. So effective.
Yeah. So as you can probably guess, we're having a really, really nice time.
We are. One essential item to bring along to the festival was a nice comfy cushion to rest our backsides on, and there was even a prize for the best cushion. Friend of the show and film festival regular Cheryl won this competition with her fantastic Necronomicushion, which we all ended up signing during the festival.
There we go.
Someone's just drawn a pair of tits.
That's me.
Fantastic.
Yep.
And then from there, it was time for the third film of the day. From Beyond the Grave is a 1974 British anthology horror film from Amicus Productions. Directed by Kevin Connor, produced by Milton Subotsky, and based on short stories by Ronald Shetwin Hayes, who was a beloved author of ghost stories.
And this was the last of the Amicus anthologies. The other portmanteau films that preceded it were, Dr. Terror's House of Horrors in 1965, Torture Garden in 1967, The House That Dripped Blood in 1970, Asylum in 1972, and the two films that were based on notorious American EC comics, Tales from the Crypt and Vault of Horror, both of which were in 73. So like those aforementioned films, From Beyond the Grave is a collection of 4 different short horror stories that revolve around the same premise or situation.
And in this case, each of the 4 stories here are about 4 different customers who all attempt to either buy, rip off or steal items from Temptations Limited, an old antique shop found on a quiet side street whose motto is offers you cannot resist. And we, the audience, just know right from the start that something mysterious is going on within this little store.
After finding themselves drawn to a particular object within the shop and then acquiring it through somewhat shady means, a curse is activated as payment for trying to cheat the elderly shopkeeper, who might not all be what he seems. And it's also a very, very rare opportunity to hear Peter Cushing attempt a Yorkshire accent.
And to be honest, it's not
that bad.
It's not that bad.
Naughty. Shouldn't have done that.
So yes, it's another excuse for myself and Luke to talk about Amicus. Not that we need an excuse to do so. We originally talked about this in great length and in great detail when we were reviewing the Peter Cushing Doctor Who movies from the same studio, Doctor Who and the Daleks and Daleks Invasion Earth 2150 AD. And it's also another chance to see a master like Peter Cushing in action. We're making a regular habit of this, aren't we?
We are, actually, yes.
Not only the 2 aforementioned Doctor Who films, but our previous episode where we did
Saunders
Sherwood Forest, where he was the Sheriff of Nottingham. And indeed, from Doctor Who to the Sheriff of Nottingham, from Baron Frankenstein to Van Helsing, from Sherlock Holmes to Grand Moff Tarkin, Peter Cushing really has done it all.
Cushing as the shopkeeper creeps around in the shadows and behind the displays of the vast amount of goods that he has in his shop, watching what his potential customers are up to, who they have no idea that they are being observed from the moment that they step through the front door. He usually has something sinister to say or has a malevolent twinkle in his eye when something nasty is about to happen soon.
Thank you very much indeed. I hope you enjoy snorting it.
Like a lot of the earlier anthologies from Amicus, From Beyond the Grave features quite the cast of character actors. including the likes of Diana Dawes, David Warner, Donald Pleasant and his daughter Angela, who all put in a fantastic performance in their respective stories. Angela Pleasance was particularly memorable, as she's clearly inherited from her dear old dad how to appear friendly and unassuming in one moment, and then become very creepy and unsettling in the next. I suppose the main question is, Luke, was Donald Pleasant more creepy in this, or in The Spirit of Dark and Lonely Water?
Dark and Lonely Water.
No hesitation.
No hesitation. Don't need to think about that. And now we move on.
You don't need to go into your special place, do you?
No.
There's nothing in the water. There's nothing in the water. The water is safe. There's nothing in the water.
Okay, thanks for reminding me about that one.
Would you like to buy some shoelaces?
We will give you a brief run through of each story, but we'll try not to give too much away of the ending for these. So, in the first story we have Edward Charlton, played by the late great David Warner. He manages to cheat the old shopkeeper into paying much less for an antique mirror by claiming that it's a forgery. Afterwards, something is unleashed from within this mirror that is not of this world, and that he is powerless to disobey, turning his middle-class life into a bloody living nightmare.
I mean, it's probably not a wise idea to be holding a séance with your mates in the same room as a creepy-looking antique mirror that you've just recently acquired in dodgy circumstances. I mean, just saying. It certainly must have made for a rather creepy experience even shooting that scene, as during an interview for the BBC television series Mark Gatiss' History of Horror, which is fantastic and well worth a watch, Warner, perhaps feeling a little nervous about the possibility of unleashing something for real, insisted that during the filming of the seance scene that he and the rest of the actors would not actually be touching hands, they would only pretend to do so.
Do as I tell you, and soon it will all be finished.
It's a solid way to open the proceedings of the film, as Charlton grows more and more deranged as he continues to feed the ghostly apparition in his mirror, and it becomes more difficult to hide the evidence of his crimes. It's neatly matched by the second story, where a former soldier turned businessman, Christopher Lowe, played by Ian Bannon, has a miserable home life with a wife who can't stand him, played wonderfully by Diana Dawes, and a teenage son who barely acknowledges him.
One day, Christopher decides to spontaneously buy shoelaces from a shabby street peddler called Jim Underwood, played by Donald Pleasance, who also used to be a soldier in the military. Seeing an opportunity to befriend the old war veteran, Christopher steals a service medal from the antique shop.
Soon after, the two men have struck up a friendship and are enjoying tea and cake in each other's company, and he really starts to enjoy the company of Jim's daughter as well. But in doing so, the businessman begins to resent his life at home even more, and when an opportunity arises to remove his wife from the picture entirely, a scheme that just so happens to involve witchcraft, the man finds himself becoming the unwitting participant of a greater plot than he realises.
In the third story, Reggie Warren, played by Ian Carmichael, sneakily swaps the price tags on two different snuff boxes to give himself a little bit of a deal.
The rotter.
And even then, the cheeky bugger still haggles over the price.
That'll cost you £5, sir. Should we say 4? Oh, you do strike a hard bargain. Oh, well, things being what they are.
On the train ride home, a very strange woman called Madame Orloff, played by Margaret Leighton in a wonderfully over-the-top performance,
fabulous,
declares that she is a psychic and that she can see that the man has a elemental demon on his shoulder that only children, animals and psychics like herself can detect. She hands the man her business card, claiming that he will require her services very soon.
Oh, it's no good trying to rub him off. Not in a lifetime will you rub him off.
At first, he is keen to disregard the woman's declaration of utter superstitious nonsense, but then odd things start to happen rather quickly. His dog is now terrified of him, and it runs away. His wife accuses him of attacking her despite being nowhere near her. At one point, she finds herself being throttled by an invisible force whilst they're in bed together. Soon after, Madame Orloff is called upon to have her stage a wonderfully over-the-top exorcism, complete with furniture flying around the room and the fireplace exploding.
Strange working hard. Fat, foul fiend, you know damn well you don't live here, your place is hell. Snarling, crawling, spitting Tom, growling, snarling, harder, harder, get thee gone. We've got him.
And although this does seem successful at first, it turns out that the nightmare has only just begun. The demon does indeed move on, just on to somebody else.
And finally, the last client of the day wants to purchase an ornately decorative door, but doesn't have quite enough to pay for it. The shopkeeper agrees to knock a little off the price tag, but whilst going into the back of the shop to write up a receipt, he leaves the till drawer open, tempting the man to steal from it. Now, we do not see this happen at this point, and this does raise the question, at first, of whether or not he deserves the karmic retribution he does seem to get. Back home, having fitted the door, it is revealed that sometimes when it is opened, it leads into an old-fashioned room, all painted in blue.
Now, of course, they do that stupid thing that all people do in a horror film, which is stay in the house and not immediately get out. Or just, you know, simply take the door back off its hinges and burn the bloody thing in the back garden. In fact, our hero in this story keeps on going into the blue room.
Why don't white people just leave the house when there's a ghost in the house? Y'all stay in the house too fucking long. Get the fuck out of the house.
This turns out to be the study of a warlock named Sir Michael Sinclair, who for many decades cursed the door to trap innocents so that he might devour their souls and return to the world of the living. It's now a race against time for the unfortunate customer to escape from the door and save the souls of himself and his loved one.
And in the last scenes of the film, one particular dodgy gentleman, having been hanging around outside the shop throughout much of the film, decides to finally enter and attempt an armed robbery from the owner, only to find out that there is more to this shopkeeper than what he lets on.
Oh dear. The love of money is the root of all evil.
And as he turns to face us, the audience, at the end, to beckon us into his shop, it seems that we are the next to be tempted.
Hi, customers. Come in. Come in. I'm sure I have the very thing to tempt you. Lots of bargains. All tastes catered for. Oh, and a big novelty surprise goes with every purchase. Do come in, anytime. I'm always open.
Here we go.
Here we go. Yes,
right,
we're back again, aren't we?
We're back again. So we've
we're
just
outside a little bit, so this is nice. Change the scene.
Nice and sunny. A bit tropical in the background. I like that.
Nice, actually. Yeah.
But we are still in Leeds, believe it or not.
Yes.
For the Leeds Horror Film Festival, and we have just finished watching From Beyond the Grave, which gives us the excuse to talk about Amicus again.
As if we ever needed an excuse to do that. So we'll do a little bit more about this, but this was the last of the Amicus portmanteau horror films.
You would never have any idea that this would be the last one, because it's still a fantastic movie. It's probably one of the best of the portmanteaus. You've got an all-star cast. You've got David Warner, you've got Donald Pleasance. Donald Pleasance's daughter Angela, who is the spitting image of a father, let's be honest with you.
Who else was in there? Ian Ogilvy was in there, Ian Bannon was in there, Carmichael was in there, and all sort of framed by a wonderful sort of story involving the great one himself, Peter Cushing.
In fine form and with a Yorkshire accent.
Very good though. It was very
naughty.
Good. It was a very good Yorkshire accent.
Shouldn't have done that.
Very good.
Flat cap and pipe. By comparison, when you saw what Hammer was like during the 70s, they pretty much squeezed every single last drop out of sort of 19th century Gothic that they could. And they tried...
And softcore lesbianism.
Well, that as well. And they tried to squeeze... Well, they tried to sort of revisit past successes without much success. With Dracula 1972 AD, we had Dracula...
It's not that bad.
It's Dracula...
It's not that bad.
It's Dracula visiting, swinging London when most of the swinging had already finished.
Yeah. There was no swinging in London in the early 70s.
And there was Kung Fu Kicking Vampires, when Hammer teamed up with Shaw Brothers for Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires.
You are not dissing Legend of the
Oh, I'm not.
You are not dissing Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires.
I'm not. In fact, if
not in my
anything,
presence.
I think the idea of that sounds fantastic. And if I may, I would like to say that maybe we do that as a future episode.
I want to do that as a future episode.
Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires.
Can we also do the film Shatter as well?
I don't see any reason why not.
Excellent, very good.
Now, despite the fact that myself and Luke quite like the idea of Dracula in swinging London, or indeed Kung Fu Kicking Vampires, it unfortunately didn't capture the attention of the audience, and unfortunately Hammer did sort of come to a bit of a creaking, wheezing early grave, unfortunately.
The last of the great Hammer horror films is to the Devil a Daughter.
Yeah.
Which is about 76, 77-ish.
So it was a bit of a sad end for Hammer. However, with Amicus,
they went on.
They carried on going, and you would have no idea that from looking at From Beyond the Grave that this would be coming to the end. But if this is the way that the curtain closed on the portmanteau Amicus films, then they closed the curtain in style. Aside from the 4 confirmed films, The Blood on Satan's Claw, The Thing, From Beyond the Grave, and Virgin Witch, we had no idea what the rest of the festival was going to include, other than that there would be a short film showcase and a UK premiere of a mystery film. Now for us, the collection of short films was one of the highlights of the entire festival, really showing that what a lot of filmmakers might lack in budget, they more than make up for in talent, imagination, and storytelling.
So, we'll now cut back to our past selves while we attempt to run through as many of the short films as possible and give our initial reactions to them. Now, small disclaimer. At this point, we'd had a few pints. Now, just keep that in mind while you're watching this, all right? That's all I'm saying.
Roll footage. So, I didn't make a list of every single short film.
Are you recording, Josh?
Yes.
Right, cool.
But let's just talk about some of them. So the first one was a film called Greed and Gore, which was like this fantastically over the top, gory. Yeah. So basically, a lady's been taken hostage.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I think the setting was there's been a heist.
Some kind of heist.
They've went to they've taken a hostage. They've went to a secluded cabin. Yeah, always a good thing to do.
And it's chucking it down with rain, thunderstorm and what have you. And in the shadows, there's some sort of masked person that's taking them out one by one. It's kind of like if Jason Voorhees turned babyface, basically, to use a wrestling term.
Yeah.
And
actually, strangely enough, the hostage got away with all the money.
Yeah, she did.
Happy ending.
And there's bits, there's like a fella getting the top of his head taken off with an axe. There's a fella falling over directly onto a knife. There's lots of gory goodness.
Yeah.
5 suspects dressed in blue coveralls, wanted for armed robbery and a possible 207.
It's an abandoned house. You guys hang tight. I'll be back before you know it.
What happened here? Boo.
After that, we had script. So this was the Italian one, wasn't it? Which was really, really interesting.
So whatever they were describing in the story was actually happening. And even though they were trying to and write themselves out of a bad situation,
they ended up writing themselves into an even worse situation.
Yes.
E se fosse stato il fantasma?
After script, we had Caregiver.
So Caregiver, so there was a gentleman basically doing an interview with a lady.
Yeah.
She was saying, oh, she's like looking after
her dad.
Her dad. But you kept sort of hearing like this like banging noise and what have you. And she said, oh, you after my dad died. It's like, sorry, I thought you said you were looking after your dad. And it's like, oh yeah, my dad's sick. But it turns out that, well,
Daddy's not well.
Yes, yes. And Daddy has quite a specified taste.
He has issues.
Yeah.
So, what made you want to volunteer and help the senior community?
After my mom passed away from her illness and seeing what she went through with her own folks, I knew my father was going to need me. The people I help, they don't have anybody else.
Well, it's a great thing you're doing for them. Do you find it rewarding?
Helping? Of course.
Then we had Bad Penny.
Bad Penny. So Bad Penny was directed by Tony Hipwell, who Zombie Film Festival fans will know was one of the guys who was behind the fantastic series Zomblogalypse. And this is him like doing like a thing on his own. It was actually filmed in the antique shop in York. We've literally just been talking to him now.
Yeah.
And it's basically about a penny that the guy who runs the shop basically can't get shut of, and everywhere he goes,
it turns up.
Yeah, there's
like a bad penny.
Yeah, there's something trying to get in like a bad penny.
Yeah.
Very spooky.
Please, don't make me do it again, please.
After that, we had Le Cri, or The Cry.
Yeah.
This was the short one, was it?
It was very, very short.
It was short. It was 4 or 5 minutes, and it was very, very, very weird.
Yes. Like someone in a forest, and they would look around. They were kind of look like hands and feet coming out of trees and things like that. Very, very scary.
Then we had, I think our translation would be Decline. This was really strange.
Declan. Decline. So basically, there is an old fella in an old people's home. It's his birthday. He thinks he's having a dance with. He's having presents and he's having a dance with. The
caregivers and what have you, the staff and what have you, and then it just goes really sort of strange and interesting, and
I'm hoping that I can find footage of some of these short films, or even I can find these short films on YouTube, so I can sort of splice some of this footage, because I think one thing that we can agree upon is like these short films, the amount of imagination that's gone into these short films is nothing short of astounding. Fantastic.
After that, we had A Hymn for Her.
Oh, now this was brilliant. So some older lady. Yeah?
This was probably one of the funniest ones that we've actually ever had.
It was.
This was really, really funny.
So an older lady. We get the impression she may have been some sort of actress or some sort of glamorous lady when she was younger. But now that she's older, she's kind of getting ignored by people. So she decides to do something about it, and
it's become some sort of serial killer.
Yes. By the amount of mobile phones that's been dropped to the bottom of this lake, she's done this quite a few times.
And so one of the actors on it, it's one of the few times where I've actually recognised one of the actors on it, the one that was playing the young lad. That's Tiger Drew Honey, who was in. What was he in? He's been in CBBC stuff and on the BBC. Yeah, what was that programme with Hugh Dennis and about his kids and what have you?
Outnumbered.
Thank you. He was in Outnumbered. He was the eldest kid in Outnumbered.
Oh, was he?
He was.
Fancy that.
There we go.
What do you see? I may as well be invisible. I just got older, that's all. I just got older. It's the dismissal. Like I don't matter. It hurts. I said I was next! When I said earlier, I do nothing about it, that's not strictly true.
You're my daisy in a meadow. I'm your ticket to Timbuktu.
After that, Old Flame. What was Old Flame?
Old Flame was it was almost like right. So this is the one where wherever the lady went, there was some sort of demon following him with like huge antlers.
Yes.
So and when she went to like, we're assuming it was Alcoholics Anonymous, or whatever.
Yeah, or some sort of group.
Everybody stood there had like some kind of demon as well.
Yeah.
I think it was kind of like meant to be a representation of what people's personal demons are like if they literally were a physical manifestation. So
yeah,
quite creepy, but
that was
very
effective.
effective.
Then we had Ron.
So Ron, we've just spoken to the director of Ron.
What was it? Well, writer and director.
Writer and director. Shook his hand and said, "Well done. That was fucking terrifying." So
to which he just went, "Thank you very much."
Yeah, that was a compliment.
That was a compliment.
The brilliant thing about some of these films is like it's literally a cast of 2 people.
Yeah.
Very simple, simple setup.
Really stripped down cast.
Oh yeah. So a lady, a health worker comes round to see an old gentleman called Ron. She's been told, right, he's got dementia, and as determined by there's post-it notes all over the house to quite a sinister degree, and it's not until you realise, until she goes upstairs, just how sinister
how bad it
actually is.
Ron? Is that your family, Ron? Ron, do you take sugar? Ron?
Again, I don't want to be giving away any spoilers. Try and watch these films for yourself because they really are fantastic.
We'll make sure that we've got a list. We'll try and get the actual proper list from Dom and everybody.
Yes.
And then we'll try and link what we can. Selfie control.
Yes. So this
was
was
straight. That's right for me. Selfie control. It sounds like and was filmed like it could have been, for want of a better phrase, an episode of Black Mirror.
Or an episode of Doctor Who, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, because it was the case of we started very, very much like somebody going to a house, so serious Exorcist vibes, and then it was a case of him, this person, Dante, talking to a mum and a dad, saying, "Well, there's something wrong with our daughter. She's vanishing. She's been taking the selfies, and all of a sudden, she's slowly disappearing into selfies and what have you." And that's why I'm thinking. That's why I was getting a serious sort of Black Mirror vibe. We're taking something that is now and extrapolating the worst possible scenarios. So that was pretty cool.
I think it was kind of like, again, it's kind of like sort of like a hidden message, like the idea that a lot of young people these days are addicted to the phones, addicted to selfies. And then there was the doll. So the doll has this really sinister premise. So basically, it's a woman dragging her boyfriend into the bathroom,
who she has just bumped off.
Yeah, with the intention of dismembering him in the bath.
In the bathroom. Yeah.
And there is a porcelain doll talking to her and telling her what to do. And she says, "Oh, do you remember that woman down the street? She basically killed her husband and dismembered him in the bath. Well, that's basically what you need to do. There's a saw downstairs, you need to go get it." So as she runs downstairs, she breaks her ankle, does that, and falls in a way that.
Yeah, that was quite sinister as well, wasn't it?
Especially when she was having a moan, sort of saying, "He wears socks to bed." It's like, I wear socks to bed.
You're a freak.
What's wrong with wearing socks in bed? Sometimes my feet get cold.
You're getting that from your son. How dare you? Like, seriously.
But then, of course, the doll turns up again outside a charity shop, and another young couple come across it, and you think, right, this is just going to be a cycle that continues.
Are we basically saying that basically charity shops are...
Charity shops are the devil's work.
They are.
And you should avoid them at all costs.
Absolutely. Scratch. That's another one on our road to getting cancelled.
Yes.
Charity? Fuck it.
He's off. That's it.
Look at you.
What was the last one that was just one?
The last one was, it was kind of like
Many
a
Clwyd.
Many Clwyd, yeah.
Many Clwyd.
So kind of like this sort of Welsh one, wasn't it? So a woman who runs the pub, she like throws this patron out of the pub, and she's like ranting about some, you know,
there's something going on. There might be some sort of festival or something like that. Again, very, very disturbing, quite frankly. Yeah, it's just been really, really good. I mean, we've had about an hour and a half watching sort of short horror films of various different genres. A lot of them, I would say,
of varying quality. I'd say some have definitely had a bigger budget than others.
Yeah.
Some have literally have a cast of like 2 people. Others have like much bigger casts.
I mean, Dom and Joe basically said that, you know, they had about 60 submissions.
Yes,
and
they
they
did.
whittled it down to about 13, and those are the 13 that we've. Yeah, those are the 13 that we've just watched. And yeah, really, really good. So yeah, I'd love to see what the ones were that they didn't make it.
Yes.
That would be interesting.
So that was the short film showcase. So the mystery film isn't actually a mystery. Well, isn't actually a film. It's more of a documentary. A documentary on the films of Stephen King.
Yeah.
So we'll pop into there and check that out.
Yeah. And then we'll come back and give you a quick review of it.
Because we're not sticking around for Virgin Witch. We'll cover Virgin Witch separately back at the bunker, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
Right. So let's head back to the bar, get another drink, and check out this documentary.
Well, a pint of water for him.
Pint of water, for this. No, shut up. I'm cool. I'm cool.
It's like, no, I'm cool. I'm cool. No. Yes. So, see you in a bit. Cool.
The mystery film, the mystery premiere that we have, was actually a documentary entitled King on Screen. It is a series of interviews with several directors who have adapted Stephen King books for the silver screen. Amongst the number of talking heads featured in the documentary are Frank Darabont, who directed The Shawshank Redemption, The Mist and The Green Mile, Mick Garris, director of the ABC television adaptation of The Stand, special effects artist Greg Nicotero, who works on the likes of Creepshow and Misery, to name but a few.
The documentary is currently doing the festival circuit at the moment, so for Dom, Joe and Pete to get this for the Leeds Horror Film Festival was a real treat. This would actually be the film's UK premiere, as it doesn't yet have a wide release date. Now, there's a lot to go through in the documentary, with some brilliant behind-the-scenes stories and insights from so many major figures in King's screen history that gives us an idea on how King's mind ticks and how his life's experiences have affected his writing. Darabont's story on how he changed the ending to The Mist, which we won't spoil here, was particularly interesting to hear, as even King himself later stated that he wished he'd thought of that.
And it certainly helps that the director of this documentary, Daphne Byway, I hope I'm saying that wrong, I do apologise if I didn't, she's a huge fan of the author and his extensive body of work, having read The Shining at the tender age of 10, while she tagged along with her father to his job on the night shift at a local hotel. Tempting fate there, love.
That's just asking for trouble.
It really is just asking for trouble. Dear me. After this particularly appropriate reading experience, she then proceeded to find and read as much King as she could find, and this would lead on to her own filmmaking career. She even puts herself in the documentary in a little cameo appearance, something that King would often do himself in movie adaptations of his books.
Now, the documentary does come across as a bit of a love letter to King, as if he could do no wrong. And although it does acknowledge King's previous battles with the bottle earlier on in his career, at no point, funnily enough, does the documentary mention Maximum Overdrive. King's first, and to this date only, directorial credit, where he would admit years later that he was taking a hell of a lot of coke during the making of the film.
Yeah, the documentary goes on to reveal Stephen King's genuine dislike of the original adaptation of The Shining, stating that it wasn't believable that Jack Torrance was taking a descent into madness because he was being played by Jack Nicholson, who already comes across as a bit mad anyway. King would have rather had that Torrance was played by someone like, I don't know, Christopher Reeve or John Voight, so that it would be more unnerving when his mental state begins to deteriorate. King was also very upfront about the book being semi-autobiographical. Again, like Torrance, King was also suffering from alcoholism at the time and felt that this wasn't present as much as it should have been in the film. It's the only adaptation of his novels that he could remember actually hating, and described it like a big, beautiful Cadillac, but with nothing inside.
Well, that was the polite way of putting it. The less polite way was when he said that the film was a piece of shit. When the story was adapted again, this time as a television movie, King made sure that he was much more hands-on this time round. The television movie is not as good as the film version, but I suppose it is more accurate to the book. And if it's something that King is happier with, then yeah, fair play to him.
I think that was the line that I've heard sort of used time and time again with the film version of The Shining is, it's a great Stanley Kubrick film, but it's a terrible Stephen King adaptation. And that's yes, it's The Shining, but it's not Stephen King's The Shining, it's Stanley Kubrick's The Shining.
Stanley Kubrick's Shining.
Yeah.
The documentary was certainly an interesting one, but there were a couple of things that did bother me. At about 2 hours long, it was a little long and drawn out for a documentary being shown at a horror film festival, especially when we've just had the rapid fire short films beforehand. You know, we've had like one very quick sort of short film after another, and then all of a sudden we get the documentary, which then does seem to drag a little bit.
Yeah.
And we were talking with Dominic Brunt at one point, and even he was getting a little bit concerned over how long the documentary was going on for, to the point where I think he was considering turning it off. Yeah, turning it off before it finished. Also, this is just me getting on my soapbox here. Although it was great to hear that Stephen King was brilliant in writing characters that weren't just like himself, i.e. white American men, he could also write excellent characters that were women and excellent characters that were African American. That's great. Well, they kept banging on about that.
Yeah.
But it does seem rather odd that out of all the talking heads that were in the documentary...
I see where you're going with this.
Yeah. Not a single one of them was a woman or African American.
Which is a little bit odd.
Yeah.
It would have been good after hearing about King being able to write for these types of characters, that we then got either sort of women or someone that was African American, or even both, to appear on film and confirm this. I mean, are you telling me that Whoopi Goldberg, Cece Spacek, Nancy Allen, Shelley Duvall, Kathy Bates, or Samuel L. King Jackson wasn't available for the afternoon to lend their voices to the documentary?
Right. Stood outside.
Yeah.
So the mystery film actually wasn't a film at all. It was a documentary about Stephen King. And very good it was too. There was like a who's who of people basically singing Stephen King's praises for us.
Stephen King's praises and the film adaptations.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good, interesting stuff.
Stephen King famously hated The Shining.
Yes,
Stanley Kubrick said he said it was a piece of shit. His words. Don't know if I agree with him on that, but
you can't please everybody.
No. But no, that was quite an interesting thing too. We've not had like documentaries at these film festivals before, so this was good to have.
No, it's good.
So yeah, we did enjoy that.
Done.
Yeah, we are sort of done now for tonight because
we're not sticking around for the final film, which is the Virgin Witch.
We're not sticking around for Virgin Witch.
No.
We will finish things off in the bunker, where we'll talk about Virgin Witch, and we'll talk about
the day as a whole, in general, which is great. You've been filming quite a fair bit.
Yep.
So there will be that.
We had started off the festival with The Blood on Satan's Claw, a film from Tygon British Film Productions, and now we're going to close off the evening with another one of their films. Out of the 4 films that had been confirmed for the festival, this was the only one that neither myself nor Luke had seen before, or even heard of.
After doing a little bit of research, we learned that essentially The Virgin Witch was a British horror sexploitation film. Now, what is a horror sexploitation film, that you might ask? Well, the opening credits might give you a bit of a clue, as it's a parade of bare boobs, evil laughter and sinister music. What we have here is a bit of horror-flavoured softcore fluff, a rather awkward relic of an incredibly different time. The film was shot in 1970, it's copyrighted as a 1971 production, however censorship problems, I know, it amazed me it had any as well, would mean it was not widely seen until around about 1972.
To be fair, we didn't stick around to watch this. We've probably mentioned that various times already. throughout these videos, throughout this series of videos. It was mainly because I had my eldest son with me at the festival. It was his first time going to one of these things, and as you can imagine, he didn't fancy the choice of either A, sat on his own in a dark theatre watching a lady with her boobs out, or B, sat there essentially watching a porno film with his dad. That was his actual quote in the WhatsApp message that he sent me.
Yes, it was. I can confirm I saw it.
So, that was where the evening ended for us. Although for reviewing purposes, I did watch this film myself a few days later, having found it available to watch on YouTube and on archive.org. Yes, it's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it.
And unfortunately, it's us. The film was directed by a gentleman called Ray Austin, who had started his career as a stunt performer on such films as North by Northwest and Spartacus before moving on to television directing, where he get to work on the likes of The Avengers and Space 1999. When he came to directing The Virgin Witch, it was only the second film he directed at the time, and let's be fair, it shows. His first film, interestingly enough, was a film called Fun and Games, which was released in the United States as 1,000 Convicts and a Woman.
What?
Indeed.
Okay, I don't even want to imagine what that film is about, although I'm sure that our audience can probably take a guess. Ray Austin was really more comfortable as a TV director. Admittedly, he was a good one, but making a film meant that he was being given the chance to work on something that had more explicit visuals. And the end result does have that feeling of something that's a television episode or a made-for-television film. It just so happens to be one that is interspersed with a lot of sex, and yes,
gratuitous female nudity. The film is based on the novel The Virgin Witch, Witches Are Born, Not Made, written by a lady called Hazel Adair, under the pen name, bizarrely, of Klaus Vogel.
What a name.
Adair was also a screenwriter on the television show Crossroads. What?
That was probably the reason for the pen name, wasn't it?
Unsurprisingly, the book is currently unavailable.
Well, I'm shocked. Shocked, I tell you.
I am shocked. Shocked! Well, not that shocked.
How can something like this be out of print? Adair also wrote a number of sex comedies, such as Clinic Exclusive and Keep It Up Downstairs. And just to give you an idea of the typical storylines of these, the latter of the two followed the sex-crazed inhabitants of the bankrupt Cockshoot Castle in 1904, and the attempts of Lord and Lady Cockshoot trying to find a rich wife for their uninterested inventor son, Peregrine.
The plot of The Virgin Witch revolves around two sisters who have decided to run away from home, Christine and Betty, for reasons that are never truly actually explained.
Christine and Betty are played by, funnily enough, two real-life sisters, Anne and Vicki Michelle, both of which have since gone on to completely disown this film, refusing to talk about it and wanting absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with it. So, there's a good sign already.
At this point, I should say I have several questions in relation to this film. Question number one is to Dom. Why? Seriously. Why? Question number 2 is to his good lady wife, Jo. Why didn't you stop him? Question number 3 is to Peter. Did you not have a veto? Vicki Michelle, of course, getting back to the film, Vicki Michelle, of course, would become better known years later for her role in the BBC sitcom Hello, Hello.
Oh, my little wood pigeon. My big goose.
Oh, René, can you feel the wild beating of my heart through this thin blouse?
No, press harder.
Christine, the oldest of the two sisters, has seemingly gotten her big chance at a modelling career when she meets up with the head of an advertising agency, Sybil Waite, played by Patricia Haynes, who arranges for her to go to a large house in the countryside for a glamorous photo shoot. But it soon becomes clear that not everything is as it's meant to be, and Sybil has secretly got sinister intentions of her own.
Sybil, it turns out, is a witch, and she's a member of a coven that operates from the same house where Christine is travelling to, along with her sister. And the two of them soon find themselves being drawn into a power struggle as the day of a great ceremony begins to draw ever closer, which sees a lot of the occupants of the house getting a little hot under the collar and struggling to keep their clothes on.
Christine is shown during the film to have psychic powers of some kind, but it's never fully explained why she has these powers or where they have come from. But it does mean that she is able to fight back against Sybil when she attempts to manipulate her. These powers also go somewhere to explain the lurid taglines on the poster for the film, which so helpfully point out that she's the girl with the power to turn you on, to turn you off. She'll blow your mind.
Yeah, so after about half an hour of this, you might actually be starting to wonder when this is going to become a horror film and not just an endless parade of boobs and bottoms. But it is Haynes' performance that makes the film worth watching along. Not that worth watching, but it's passable at least. Her portrayal of this smouldering, brooding, seductive and scheming witch is so good that it's a crying shame that it's not in a much better film than this. However, I will say one thing about this witch's coven. At least you get a stylish dressing gown to put on.
Horror films tend to age very well. Even the cheesy ones that are so bad that they're good. But sex films? Oh dear. These types of film age terribly. Now, there is a reason why the Carry On films are still fondly remembered, apart from Carry On Emmanuel, of course.
And Carry On Columbus.
Yes, but that's for different reasons.
Yeah.
Whilst the likes of the Confessions films aren't so much and are looked upon as a little embarrassing and juvenile. In fact, at times, this film does come across as like a bad Confessions movie. In fact, maybe they should have just renamed it Confessions of a Witch's Coven.
They absolutely missed a trick here. Confessions of a Cult Member would be a natural follow-up to Confessions of a Window Cleaner. We're just missing Timmy Lee popping up during the proceedings. Honestly, it would not have surprised me if Robin Asquith would have arrived to do the windows. Maybe he was just... Or better still, get him in, play the role of the photographer instead.
He was the photographer in Carry On Girls, funnily enough. Maybe I should just splice in a bit of footage of that.
That's it. Yeah, Carry On Girls, that's an even worse one.
Yeah. The film is certainly entertaining enough, although to a modern audience, the lengthy scenes depicting sex rituals, let's be honest, are hard work to get through. And are just fundamentally silly rather than sexy.
Yeah, it's terrible. I still can't believe talking about this film on this channel. It's a sex film, albeit a horror one as well. Yeah, terrible facial expressions. They don't help in any way, shape or form, nor does the moment when they are actually getting all oiled up.
And quite frankly, they're wasteful with that anointing oil. I mean, that stuff's not cheap.
Moving on, swiftly.
It's, yeah, I think as you probably gathered by now, this is definitely not a film for everyone, and it's very much a product of its time. A time that is thankfully long gone.
Long gone.
The story is threadbare, there's a terrible sense of pacing. Even though the film is only an hour and a half, it really does feel longer. And there's times when you just sat there waiting for something to happen.
The audio at times can be terrible. The production values make it look like more time was spent on the titillation and very, very little time on anything else.
What is now the worst film we've ever covered on this channel? Virgin Witch, The Apple, Ninja Squad, one of the Bruceploitations, or that brief look at Judge Dredd.
Or Santa with Muscles.
Or Santa with Muscles, yeah.
Now then, what is the worst film? I still think that the worst film that we have covered on this here programme, it is still Santa with Muscles.
Wow, okay.
It is still Santa with Muscles.
I hadn't realised that the benchmark had been set so low.
Santa with Muscles is a cinematic abomination that I would not inflict upon my worst enemy.
So you would rather watch Virgin Witch than watch Santa with Muscles?
Yeah, boobs. It's fine, fair enough. It's badly written, badly acted, badly lit. The score is terrible. The direction is amateurish, but you know, boobs.
Boobs. Okay, would you rather watch Virgin Witch or The Apple?
Virgin Witch.
You'd rather,
I'd rather watch the Virgin Witch than The Apple.
Would you rather watch Virgin Witch or Judge Dredd 1995?
Judge Dredd 1995.
So it's not that bad then, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Would you rather watch Virgin Witch or a Godfrey Ho / Bruceploitation movie?
Okay, so technically speaking there's two there. I would rather watch the Virgin Witch than the Godfrey Ho movie, but I would rather watch a Bruceploitation film than the Virgin Witch.
Ah, okay. So there we go. That's the pecking order of shit.
Yeah. That is the pecking order of dregs. So there we go. I feel as though I have explained myself very, very clearly.
That's good.
Because at the end of the day, boobs. Still, on the plus side, because we want to be positive, on the plus side, it's probably an ideal film for a festival such as this, as those who did stick around until the end described it as the funniest film of the entire festival, although I'm sure that it was funny for all the wrong reasons. I do feel that From Beyond the Grave would have been a better film to end the evening on, but I can understand why they put this one on last if people wanted to go home.
But well done to the dregs who lasted through to the end.
Yes.
Yes, Dominic did refer to them as dregs.
Yes, I believe they may have t-shirts made.
So well done to you. You managed to sit through a movie that was banned outright by the BBFC for many years, although that was due to the combination of nakedness and witchcraft rather than the fucking god-awful script. And that was the Leeds Horror Film Festival of 2023. So, what have we watched here? Well, I feel that after I've gone so many, we need to recap this in the pub.
I think I would like that.
Yes.
Yeah, coffee is just not cutting it at the moment. It's not cutting it at the moment.
We'll join you again in a few moments while we get a couple of cold ones in.
We'll get a beverage or two, and then we'll see you in a bit.
Here we go again.
Hello.
Hello.
You won't believe this, but we're in a pub in Leeds, which is quite fitting considering that this has been the Leeds Horror Film Festival.
Indeed.
Now, I have been to these things...
About 2 or 3 weeks removed from it, but that's by the by, that's the beauty of time travel.
Now, I've been to these things since the very start, since they were the Leeds Zombie Film Festival. And the period of time where we've not had one of these festivals has been felt, and it has been down to various reasons, including an actual global pandemic. But now that it's back, it is my hope that this will continue to become an annual event, and if it does, I think you can pretty much guarantee that we will be there each year.
I mean, for me, this was my first time. I was a bit of a newbie, so it was wonderful. It was a great, wonderful day, great venue. Many thanks to Archive for hosting. Again, you know, eternal thanks and much love to Dom, Joe and Peter for organising it, despite the dubious choice of a final film.
My highlights of the festival were The Thing, From Beyond the Grave, the short film showcase, and of course being able to meet up with people who I've become great friends with at the festival, to Cheryl, to Beth, to Pete, to Peter Abbott as well, to Dom, to Joe. It's just been, it's like we're all part of one big extended undead family. And
it's a nice way of putting it. It's a nice way of putting it. Can I also,
Dobbo as well. Nice seeing you again, mate. And Trev.
It was great, and I was generally a newbie at this, and I thought it was absolutely superb. The Cheryl and the Necronomicushion was wonderful. I don't know whose it was. It may have been Cheryl's other cushion that was brought on. I'm not entirely sure, but there was a cushion that I was continually hugging at certain points because
that was mine.
Was that yours?
That was mine. Yes.
Right. So thank you very much. Yeah, Lidworth's comfort cushion because it's not good with horror films. To the point where Cheryl actually turned to me and said, "Are you going to be alright in this?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm going to be fine."
What was lovely as well is that my eldest son, he was starting to get very sleepy. After the short film showcase and during the Stephen King documentary, he was actually starting to fall asleep. Not because he was drunk, but because he'd just finished his dissertation a few days beforehand, and he was trying as best he could to stay awake.
Can I just say actually, the youngest of our group, like your eldest and the youth himself, Josh, they didn't. I tell you something, staying power. We survived the whole entire thing. Them two were flagging for various reasons. Some of which were alcohol induced.
Funny that.
Strange.
But yes, we had a lovely time at the Leeds Horror Film Festival 2023. Long may it continue. Long may this become an annual event again.
Roll on next year.
We've had a fantastic time. Hopefully, in the way that we've sort of documented this, has brought some of that, an idea of that enjoyment to you, our humble YouTube audience. A massive thank you again to Dominic, to Joe, to Pete for organising this. You people are megastars. And already looking forward to the next one. Although, leave the sex exploitation films behind.
No. It happened. It was a thing. Let's just leave it to the side now. Let's think of something else.
Let's see more 80s horror. Let's see more portmanteau films. Let's see, anything that's not the Virgin Witch.
Pretty much. We're never going to be able to unsee it.
No, despite our best efforts.
And we have tried.
Right, well, until next time, until our next episode, whatever that ends up being.
Which we don't know yet.
Please, if you've enjoyed this video, leave a like, leave a comment.
The usual stuff's kind of like here, I think.
Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Share this video across all your various social media, type gubbins. And until our next episode, I am the Big Daddy D, David Mabley.
I am Albert Murphy.
And we're signing off for another episode of We Need to Talk About... ...
TTFN.
Chin chin.
Very nice, this. We're drinking it in a very, very civilised way, aren't you?
Yeah. Put me through it.
Oh, sorry.
Simcoe Solo.
Simcoe Solo. Pinkies out. Ooh, very nice. Right. Bye-bye.